She hunted him for food, but found a different kind of hunger. The ice world had no name on any star map. It was only a number in a forgotten survey file, marked as low value and high risk. The sky was a dull white, the ground a mix of frozen stone and sharp blue ice, and the wind never truly stopped. It screamed across the plains like a living thing, cutting through armor and flesh alike. Kareth moved through that wind without fear. She was a huntress of the Varkai, tall and lean, her dark-plated skin built to resist cold and impact. Thin ridges ran along her skull, and her eyes reflected light like polished metal. In her right hand she carried a long bone blade, grown rather than forged, sharp enough to cut through muscle and bone with ease. Hunting was not a job for her species, it was life itself. The Varkai did not farm, they did not raise animals, they hunted sentient prey. Their belief was simple and old, only thinking prey produced strong flesh. Fear hardened the body, struggle fed the spirit. To eat was to honor the hunt, and to hunt was to honor existence. Kareth had grown up learning this truth, repeating it, living it. She had taken her first sentient life before she had fully reached maturity. There had been no doubt in her mind then, there should have been no doubt now. Her wrist scanner pulsed softly, projecting a faint glow against the snow. One life sign, warm-blooded, bipedal, injured. Human, the word carried little meaning to her people. Another soft species from another fragile world. The crashed ship still burned in the distance, half buried in ice. The others had likely died on impact or frozen soon after. This one had survived longer. That alone made him worth hunting. Kareth lowered her body, moving with practiced silence. Each step was careful, controlled. She followed broken tracks in the snow, uneven, dragging. The human was hurt badly, one leg most likely. Blood stains dotted the ice, already dark and frozen. Easy prey, she told herself. Yet as she followed, something felt wrong. The tracks did not move in straight lines. They doubled back, crossed over old paths, vanished and reappeared. Once she nearly stepped into a narrow pit hidden beneath snow and shattered metal. Only her reflexes saved her from impalement. A trap. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Most prey ran blindly when wounded. This one thought. She climbed a low ridge and scanned ahead. There between two broken slabs of ice, she saw him. The human was smaller than her, wrapped in torn survival gear, one arm held tight against his side. His face was pale, lips cracked, breath fogging the air. One leg was stiff, dragging with every step. He should not have been moving at all, yet he was. He stopped suddenly as if sensing something. Slowly he turned his head. Their eyes met. For a brief moment neither moved. Kareth expected fear, screaming, begging. The usual reactions that told her the hunt was proceeding as it always had. Instead, the human simply stared. His eyes were dark, tired, but sharp. Pain was there, yes, exhaustion too, but fear, if it existed, it was buried deep under something heavier. Resolve. The human reached slowly into his jacket. Kareth tensed, blade rising, ready to strike. He pulled out a small metal object and dropped it onto the ice between them. Then, with visible effort, he raised his empty hands. "I'm not armed," he said. The words were rough, spoken through cracked lips. His voice shook from cold, not panic. Kareth did not understand his language, but she understood tone. She understood posture. He was not surrendering in the way prey usually did. There was no collapse, no pleading gestures. He stood straight as his injured body allowed. Interesting, she thought. She stepped forward, letting herself be seen fully. Her height, her blade, the ridges of her armor, all designed to inspire fear. The human swallowed. His heart rate spiked. But still he did not run. Instead, he spoke again, slower this time, pointing to his chest. "Elias," a name. Kareth had heard of this habit. Humans named themselves freely, even to enemies, a strange custom. Names had power among the Varkai and were never given to prey. She pointed her blade at him, then at herself. "Kareth!" The sound of her own name felt strange in the open air, spoken aloud without ritual. She did not know why she did it. The wind howled louder, snow whipping between them. Elias staggered, nearly falling, then caught himself against a slab of ice. Pain twisted his face, but he made no sound. Kareth circled him slowly. Up close, she could see how bad his condition was. The leg was swollen, movement stiff. Blood soaked through his clothing near the ribs. He was burning energy he did not have. He would die soon, with or without her blade. She raised her weapon. This was the moment she had lived for countless times before. The clean end of the hunt, the taking of flesh. The satisfaction of survival, yet her arm did not fall. Elias watched her carefully. He did not beg. Instead, he reached into his pack again. Slowly, carefully, Kareth allowed it, curious now. He pulled out a small heating unit, cracked but functional. With shaking hands, he activated it and set it on the ice between them. Warm air spread, weak but real. Then he pushed it toward her. A gift. Her eyes widened slightly before she could stop herself. Prey did not give gifts. She looked from the heater to Elias. He met her gaze steadily. "It's cold," he said simply. Kareth felt something twist inside her chest. Not hunger, not anger, something unfamiliar. Confusion. She could kill him now, take the warmth later, take the flesh. That was the way of things, yet her body remained still. The wind shifted, stronger now. Elias swayed, nearly collapsing again. His breathing was shallow. He was losing heat fast. Without fully deciding to, Kareth stepped forward and grabbed his arm. He flinched but did not fight. She pulled him toward a nearby ice formation, a narrow opening that led into a shallow cave. She had noticed it earlier, planning to corner him there before striking. Now she dragged him inside instead. The cave blocked the worst of the wind. The difference was immediate. Elias slumped against the wall, sliding down until he was sitting. His head dropped forward. For a moment, Kareth thought he had lost consciousness. She knelt in front of him, blade still ready. Slowly, he lifted his head. "Thank you," he whispered. The words were weak but sincere. Kareth stood abruptly, turning away. She told herself this was only strategy. Let him live a little longer, let him regain strength. A better hunt would follow. That was what she told herself. Minutes passed. The storm worsened outside. Snow piled at the cave entrance. Elias fumbled with his pack again, pulling out a ration bar. He broke it in half and extended one piece toward her. She stared at it. It was processed food, dry and nutrient-dense. It smelled strange, not meat. She shook her head sharply. He nodded, accepting the refusal, and ate slowly. Each bite seemed to cost him effort. Kareth watched him closely. He ate not with greed, but with care, as if making the food last mattered more than comfort. When he finished, he wrapped himself tighter in his torn jacket, shivering. "You could have killed me," he said quietly, staring at the cave wall rather than her. "Back there." She did not respond. "I know you still can," he continued. "I just wanted you to know I see you." Kareth frowned. "See her?" He turned his head slightly, meeting her gaze again. "You didn't have to help." The words stayed with her long after he closed his eyes, exhaustion finally dragging him into uneasy sleep. Kareth stood guard at the cave entrance, listening to the storm, listening to his breathing behind her. Slow, fragile, human, her stomach growled, a deep ache reminding her of what she was, what she needed, food. Yet as she looked back at the injured man, something else stirred within her. A hunger she did not recognize, did not understand, and could not satisfy with flesh. For the first time in her life, the hunt had not ended with a kill. And for the first time, Kareth wondered what that meant. The storm did not weaken through the night. It pressed against the ice cave like a living force, shaking loose snow and sending cold air curling along the stone floor. Kareth remained awake, unmoving near the entrance, her senses stretched outward. Every sound mattered. Every vibration could mean danger. Behind her, the human slept. Elias' breathing was uneven, shallow at times, then suddenly deep, as if his body struggled to remember how to rest. His skin was too pale, his lips slightly blue. Even without touching him, Kareth could tell his temperature was dropping. Humans were not built for worlds like this. Their bodies burned fast, strong but wasteful, and once the heat was gone, death followed quickly. She told herself this was not her concern, yet she found herself moving closer. She knelt beside him, her movements careful, slow. Her kind did not tend to prey. They watched them weaken, studied their fear. But Elias did not smell of fear. He smelled of blood, cold, and something sharp, determination. Kareth reached out and pressed 2 fingers lightly against the side of his neck, feeling for the pulse she had learned to detect during hunts. It was there, weak but steady, alive. She withdrew her hand quickly, annoyed with herself. The storm worsened before dawn. Snow sealed the cave entrance almost completely, leaving only a narrow gap for air. Kareth carved a small opening with her blade, ensuring they would not suffocate. The effort warmed her muscles. She could last days without food if needed. The human could not. When Elias woke, it was with a sharp intake of breath, his eyes snapping open as if expecting danger. His gaze found Kareth instantly. He relaxed slightly when he saw her standing there. "You're still here," he said. His voice was weaker than before. Kareth did not answer. She turned her attention back to the storm, scanning the white blur outside. The hunt was not over. Other Varkai might be nearby. This world had been marked as a feeding ground weeks ago. Elias tried to sit up and failed. Pain crossed his face, but again he made no sound. "You should have eaten me," he said quietly after a moment. The words caught her attention. She turned, eyes narrowing. He gave a weak smile. "At least then I wouldn't be freezing to death." She stepped closer, crouching in front of him. Slowly, she pointed to his injured leg, then to the storm outside, then made a sharp slicing motion across her throat. He frowned, then nodded slowly. "Yeah, I get it." She reached into a pouch at her side and pulled out a compact thermal sheet, thin and dark. It was made for preserving meat after a kill. She had never used one on a living being. She wrapped it around him. Elias stiffened in surprise as warmth spread across his body. His eyes widened. "You really don't make sense," he murmured. Kareth ignored the words. She studied his injuries instead. The rib wound was bad. Infection would follow if untreated. The leg was fractured, not cleanly broken, but damaged enough to slow him badly. A slow death, she thought. Hours passed. The storm finally weakened, the wind dropping to a low, constant howl. Kareth sensed movement beyond the cave long before she saw it. Another Varkai. She smelled him first, sharp, aggressive. A hunter named Sorak. He was younger than her, reckless, eager to prove himself. He would not hesitate. Kareth's muscles tightened. She placed herself between Elias and the entrance. Sorak's silhouette appeared through the snow. His eyes glowed as he stepped closer, scanning the cave. "You found prey," he said in their native tongue, "and you let it live." Elias understood nothing of the words, but he understood the tone. He struggled to sit up again, then stopped, conserving strength. "He is mine," Kareth replied. Sorak laughed, a harsh sound. "He is wounded, weak. You delay for nothing." "He is not ready," she said. Sorak tilted his head, studying her. "You are strange today, Kareth. The elders will not like this." "I do not hunt for the elders," she said flatly. Sorak stepped forward, blade rising. "Then I will finish what you started." Before Elias could react, Kareth moved. Her blade met Sorak's with a sharp crack, sparks flashing as bone struck bone. The cave filled with the sound of steel-hard edges colliding. Sorak snarled, pushing forward with brute strength. "You defend food," he hissed. "I defend my hunt," she answered. They fought fast and close, movements practiced, deadly. Sorak was strong but careless. He overextended, swinging wide. Kareth slipped inside his guard and struck, slicing deep across his arm. Dark blood sprayed across the ice. Sorak staggered back, stunned more than injured. "You choose prey over kin?" Kareth did not hesitate. She drove her blade into his chest. He collapsed, eyes wide, disbelief frozen on his face. His body twitched once, then went still. The cave was silent again. Elias stared, breath shallow, eyes locked on the fallen alien. He did not scream, he did not move. Kareth stood over the body, her chest rising and falling. She had crossed a line that could not be undone. She turned to Elias. He swallowed hard. "You killed him for me." She shook her head sharply. "For my choice." He studied her face, searching for something. "That's the same thing." She did not argue. They waited until night fell again. Kareth dragged Sorak's body outside, far from the cave, leaving it exposed to the cold and scavengers. She did not harvest the flesh. The thought made her stomach twist. When she returned, Elias was awake, watching the cave entrance. "You're going to be hunted now?" he said softly. "Yes," she replied. "Then you should leave me," he said. "I'll slow you down." She looked at him for a long moment. "No," she said. The word surprised both of them. She helped him drink melted ice warmed by the heater. She adjusted the thermal wrap when it slipped. These actions felt unnatural, yet oddly right. As Elias drifted back into sleep, Kareth remained awake once more. Her hunger burned inside her, sharp and demanding. But it was no longer focused on flesh alone. It wanted answers, it wanted meaning. And it was far more dangerous than any hunger she had ever known. The storm finally broke on the third day. The sky cleared into a pale blue sheet, weak sunlight reflecting off endless ice. The silence that followed felt heavy, like the world itself was holding its breath. Kareth stood at the cave entrance, scanning the horizon. The kill of Sorak would not go unnoticed. Blood always called blood among the Varkai. Behind her, Elias stirred. He tried to sit up again and failed. His teeth clenched, his breath sharp. This time a small sound escaped him, more frustration than pain. "You should stop doing that," he said quietly to himself. Kareth turned and crouched beside him. She studied his leg again. The swelling had worsened. The skin around the wound was red, angry. Infection had begun. If he stayed here, he would die. She made her decision without ceremony. She lifted him. Elias gasped in surprise as she pulled him against her chest, his weight awkward but manageable. He was light, far lighter than Varkai prey usually was. She adjusted her grip, supporting his injured side carefully. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Moving," she said simply. She stepped out into the open world. The wreckage of the human ship lay half a day's walk away. She had seen its smoke from the ridge earlier. There might be supplies, medicine, shelter stronger than ice and stone. Elias followed her gaze and understood. "There's a med unit in the cockpit," he said. "If it's still working." She nodded and began to walk. The journey was slow. The ground was uneven, broken by frozen ridges and deep cracks hidden under snow. Kareth adjusted her pace to keep Elias from jolting too much. Every few steps his breathing hitched, but he did not ask her to stop. Several times she felt eyes on them, scavengers first. Small, fast creatures that kept their distance when they sensed her strength. Later, something heavier, something watching with patience. Another Varkai. Kareth altered her path, moving through narrow ice fields where ambush would be difficult. She kept her blade ready, her senses sharp. Elias noticed the tension in her body. "You're not alone anymore," he said quietly. She glanced down at him. "You know this," she replied. "I mean, not just now," he said. "You don't have to do everything alone." The words stayed with her as they walked. They reached the wreck by dusk. The ship was broken open, its metal frame twisted, one wing completely torn away. Frost coated every surface. Inside, shadows lay heavy and still. Kareth set Elias down carefully near the entrance. He pointed weakly toward the cockpit. "There," he said, "medical locker left wall." She moved fast, efficient. The locker opened with a hiss, releasing sterile air. Inside were sealed injectors, bandages, tools. She grabbed everything she could carry. When she returned, Elias was pale, his eyes unfocused. "Stay with me," she said sharply. He blinked, forcing focus. "Still here." She cleaned his wounds as best she could, following the simple instructions printed on the injector. She had treated injuries before, but never with care meant to preserve life long-term. The injector hissed as medicine entered his system. Elias groaned softly, then relaxed. Minutes passed. His breathing steadied. Color returned slowly to his face. Kareth exhaled without realizing she had been holding her breath. They stayed inside the wreck that night. The walls blocked the wind. The temperature was survivable. Kareth sealed the entrance as best she could. Elias slept deeply, the medicine pulling him under. Kareth sat nearby, blade across her knees, listening to the quiet hum of failing systems. Her hunger returned stronger than before. Not for Elias, for something else, for understanding. She thought of Sarak's face when he realized she would kill him. The shock, the betrayal. She had chosen differently, and the cost would be high. She looked at the human. He had offered himself to her before, not as prey, but as choice. Even now, weak and broken, he trusted her with his life. Why? Days passed. Elias healed slowly. The infection receded. The swelling reduced. He could sit up without collapsing now. Sometimes he talked about Earth, about his family, about training for space exploration and never expecting to crash on a frozen death world. Kareth listened. She told him little, but she answered his questions when they mattered. About the Varkai, about the hunts, about why she was now in exile. "You could have just walked away," Elias said one day. "Left me?" "Yes," she agreed, "but you didn't." "No," he smiled faintly. "That matters." On the fifth day, the signal came. Kareth felt it before she saw it. The air vibrated with low-frequency pulses. A hunting beacon, 3 Varkai signatures, an execution party. She stood immediately, blade in hand. Elias followed her gaze, seeing nothing but understanding everything. "They're coming." "Yes." "You can still run," he said. "You're fast." She shook her head. "You cannot." He reached for her arm. "Then leave me with the ship. Use me as bait." The words cut deeper than any blade. "No," she said, her voice firm. The first Varkai appeared at the edge of the wreckage, then 2 more, older, heavier, experienced. They surrounded the ship with calm precision. "Kareth," one of them called, "you have violated the hunt. You have killed kin for prey." She stepped into the open, placing herself fully between them and the ship. "I have chosen," she replied. The leader tilted his head. "Then you will die." The attack came fast. Kareth moved faster. She fought with everything she had. Her blade sang through the air, striking joints, slicing tendons. One fell quickly. The second wounded her shoulder deep enough to slow her. The third was patient, too patient. He waited for her mistake. Inside the wreck, Elias dragged himself to the cockpit. His hands shook as he activated the emergency transmitter. The antenna extended slowly, painfully slow. Outside, Kareth staggered. The final Varkai raised his blade. A shot rang out. The sound cracked the air like thunder. The Varkai collapsed. A hole burned through his chest. Elias stood at the wreck entrance, weapon shaking in his hands, eyes wide with shock. He had never killed before. Kareth stared at him, stunned. He dropped the weapon, his legs giving out. She caught him before he fell. Moments later, the sky filled with light, human ships. Rescue vessels descended, their presence overwhelming. Soldiers poured out, weapons raised, disciplined and calm. They saw the bodies, they saw Kareth, they raised their weapons. Elias lifted his head weakly. "Don't," he said. "She's with me." Silence followed. The humans lowered their weapons slowly. Kareth looked at the ships, the soldiers, the unity, not fear, not chaos, strength, not born from hunger, but from choice. And in that moment, Kareth understood. Humans were not weak prey, they were something far more dangerous. They chose who they protected, and she had been chosen. The human rescue camp grew quickly. Tents unfolded from metal frames. Lights cut through the blue dusk. Medical teams moved with calm speed, voices low and controlled. Weapons stayed ready but not pointed. Everything the humans did felt practiced, not rushed. Kareth watched from the edge of the camp, her injured shoulder burning beneath a rough bandage. Two human soldiers stood nearby, alert but not hostile. They watched her the way one watched a wild storm, carefully, with respect and caution. Elias lay inside a medical shelter, surrounded by soft light and quiet machines. His breathing was steady now. The medics had stabilized his leg and ribs. He would live. That knowledge eased something tight inside Kareth's chest. A human officer approached her slowly. He was older, his face lined, his movements measured. He stopped several steps away and lowered his weapon completely. "My name is Captain Rowe," he said. "You saved one of mine. Hunting parties. You stayed." Kareth felt it in her bones. The Varkai were close, too close. Captain Rowe moved instantly. Defensive perimeter, non-essential personnel to transports. "They will target me." The human shields absorbed the impact, flaring bright but holding. Human soldiers returned fire in controlled bursts, precise and deadly. Kareth watched in awe. This was not a hunt. This was war discipline. Varkai warriors dropped from their craft, landing hard on the ice, blades ready. They moved fast, fearless, driven by tradition and rage. The humans met them head-on. The clash was brutal but brief. Humans fought as units, covering each other, adapting instantly. Where a Varkai expected panic, they found resistance. Where they expected scattered prey, they faced walls of coordinated fire. Kareth saw Varkai fall, confusion on their faces even as they died. The hunt had failed. A Varkai leader pushed forward, larger than the others, his armor marked with ritual scars. His eyes locked onto Kareth. "Exile," he roared. "You shame us. You stand with prey. For weakness." The old hunger surged. "End him, eat, complete the hunt." She stopped. Instead, she lowered her weapon. "Leave," she said. "Tell them the hunt is over." Shame burned in his eyes stronger than fear. He retreated, signaling his remaining warriors. The Varkai ships lifted off, vanishing into the sky. Silence fell over the ice. Human soldiers lowered their weapons. Captain Rowe approached again. "You could have killed him." Rowe stood beside her. "You can come," he said. "But understand this, our worlds will fear you, some will want you gone." The ship lifted off, leaving the ice world behind. As the stars stretched into lines, Kareth felt something strange settle inside her. Not hunger, not pain, belonging, but she knew it would not be easy, her people would not forget. And humanity had just made a powerful enemy by choosing to protect one former huntress. The real test was still ahead. The human ship moved through space with steady confidence, its engines humming like a calm heartbeat. Outside the viewing port, stars stretched and shifted as the vessel jumped away from the frozen world. Kareth stood silently near the wall, her reflection faint in the glass. She had left her hunting ground forever. Elias rested in a medical bay nearby. Machines monitored his body, lines of soft light rising and falling with his breath. He was healing, slowly but surely. Human medicine worked differently than Varkai methods. It focused on saving life, not preserving meat. That difference mattered more than Kareth had ever expected. The humans did not cage her. They did not chain her. They watched, yes. They kept distance, yes. But they treated her as a guest, not a monster. That confused her more than hostility ever could. Captain Rowe met her on the observation deck 2 days later. He stood beside her, hands behind his back, looking out at the stars. "You've caused a lot of discussion," he said. "I imagine so," Kareth replied. "Some want you studied, some want you sent away. A few want you locked up forever. Then you're already learning." "They don't leave the weak behind," Elias said softly. "No," Kareth replied, "they protect them." They reached a human medical station on the edge of explored space. News of Kareth's presence spread quickly. Scientists wanted scans, diplomats wanted answers, soldiers wanted to know if she was a threat. Kareth submitted to observation willingly. She allowed scans of her biology, her metabolism, her hunger cycles. Human researchers were careful, respectful. They spoke to her, not over her. What they discovered shocked everyone. The Varkai did not need sentient flesh to survive. Their bodies could adapt to synthetic proteins and engineered nutrients. It took time, adjustment, discipline, but it was possible. The hunger that ruled Kareth's species was not biological destiny. It was tradition. When Elias heard the results, he laughed quietly. "All that suffering," he said, "for nothing." Kareth received messages, threats, pleas, questions. One message stood out. A young Varkai huntress asked simply, "Does the hunger ever stop?" Human diplomats flanked her, calm and firm. Elias stood nearby, no longer injured, his posture straight, his eyes steady. The council chamber was filled with fear. They had heard the stories, a predator who spared prey, a huntress who killed her own kind to protect a human. A species that once ate thinking beings now standing beside humanity. "Why should we trust you?" one counselor demanded. Kareth stepped forward. "I was raised to believe hunger defined me," she said. "That to eat was to honor life. I was wrong. I learned from humans that strength is not taken," she continued. "It is given, chosen, shared." Narrowly, humanity's proposal passed. The Varkai were declared a species under observation, not extermination. Dialogue would replace war for now. As they left the chamber, Elias exhaled. That was close. Kareth became a symbol. To some, she was a warning, to others, hope. She trained with humans, learning restraint, teamwork, protection. She taught them, too, about Varkai senses, survival, endurance. She never hunted again. She ate synthetic food. It was never pleasant, but it was enough. The old hunger still whispered sometimes, especially in moments of stress. But it no longer ruled her. One day, Elias found her watching a group of human children laughing in a station garden. They ran freely, unafraid, unaware of how close the galaxy had once come to burning. "You ever miss it?" he asked. "The hunt." "Now I decide." And taught them how to live.